Hey everybody, welcome to topic number 2. In this video, let's review how to solve linear equation in one variable. So a lot of times when it comes to solving equations, I use this word a lot called a variable term. A variable term is a term that contains the variable that is being solved, okay? The term that contains the variable that is being solved. So for example, if I have an equation, 2x minus 3y equal to 6. I know this is an equation because the equal sign. All right, so solving for y. So if I'm solving for y, y is my variable. So on the left side of the equal sign, I see there is a subtraction sign separating between two terms. So my first term, 2x, my second term. From the subtraction to the equal sign, I know 3y is a term. So from topic 1, we talked about, okay, the sign, this plus and minus sign outside the parenthesis go with the term that follows. So my second term is negative 3y. On the other side of the equal sign, I got a positive 6. So out of the three terms, the term that contains the variable that is being solved is my variable term. So here, the term that contains the variable that's being solved is negative 3y, because this term has a variable y. So this got to be the variable term. Okay, so that's what it means. So what is negative 3 here? Negative 3 inside this variable term is called the coefficient. But coefficient is not always just a number in front of a variable. That's not a good definition. So a better definition is here. A coefficient is a factor or factors inside the variable term that is not the variable itself. That's what a coefficient really is. So same exact equation, except I'm adding another variable. 2x minus 3yz equal to 6. I want to solve for y. So once again, my variable term is negative 3yz, right? Because that term contains the variable that I'm solving. So y is the variable. That means, remember now, coefficient is a factor or factors inside the variable term other than the variable itself. So that means uh, the negative 3 and the z both got to be my coefficient. So again, coefficient is not simply just a number in front of x. Okay, that's not a good definition, basically. All right. So in your own word, y coefficient isn't simply just a number in front of the variable. Okay, so this is one of the discussion questions. So in your own words, tell me why coefficient isn't simply just a number in front of the variable. All right, so here are the 6 steps on how to solve linear equation in one variable. It's very similar to what you may have seen before coming up, um, coming up through high school, except this step right here. I do step number 4 slightly different. Okay, step number 4 here says, well, normally we identify terms. Every equation we got to know how many terms we have because sometimes some of my terms may have parentheses where I got to do distribution. And then we're going to combine that term on each side if needed to. So that's shrinking down the equation a little bit. Then step number 4, I rolled it out slightly different. I'm going to move all the variable term to one side and move all the other terms to the other side. Okay, so it just whenever I move terms across the equal sign, I got to change the sign to the opposite one. So this is where I show students a little bit differently. The way how the public school teach this teaching this step is moving one term, then combine, moving another term, then combine. I'm just gonna move all the variable term first, at one time, then move all the other term at one time, and then combine after that together. So that's what step number 5 is. So once I move them, I need to combine that on each side if I needed to. The only step that's involving with the word solving is dividing both sides by the coefficients. Okay, that's the solving step. Okay, so I'm going to show you the way I will demonstrate throughout the semester. So let's identify terms. So equal sign is right here, separate between left side and the right side. So the plus sign here on the left side of the equal sign, separate between two terms. So I got negative 2x is one term. From the plus to the equal sign, 4 is a term. The plus sign go with the term that follow behind it. So my second term is positive 4. On the right hand side of the equal sign, there is a subtraction sign. So between subtract and the equal sign, okay, 3x is one term. And then of course, the last term is gonna be this -8. So in this equation, I got 4 terms. Out of the 4 terms, none of the 4 term has parentheses where I need to do distribution. All right, step number 3, combine like term on each side. So these 2 terms on the left cannot be combined. They're not like terms. Neither are these 2 terms on the right side. So now it comes to step number 4, moving all the variable term to the same side and other term to the other side. So, okay, so which side should the variable term to go to? Left side or the right side? The answer is it doesn't really matter. Okay, either side should be should be the same. However, moving to one side, one particular side is actually better as far as computation concerned, okay? It's actually better than the other one. Okay, so we will always, so from here, we will always identify your variable term first. Okay, find your variable term. I got -2x on the left, 3x on the right. So which side should I move the x's to? The right hand side of the equal sign or the left hand side? Well, in this particular example, right hand side is better because the 3x is bigger than the -2x on the left. So if I move my variable term to the bigger side, then after I combine them, my coefficient will remain to be positive. Therefore, it avoid making a lot of sign mistakes. Okay, so I'm gonna pick up, so term is an object, right? So I'm gonna pick out this -2x and move it over here. At the same time, I'm gonna pick up this -8 and move it over to the left side. So with the equal sign in the middle, 3x is still 3x on the right. When I move a term across the equal sign, when I move the -2x across the equal sign to the right side, it becomes positive. Okay, gotta change the sign when you move across the equal sign. +4 still +4 on the left, -8 come over to the left side, becomes positive. All right, combine like terms again. So this is gonna be 5x equal to 12. So now I only got 2 terms left, right? No more terms to combine. Okay, variable term is all on one side, other term on the other side. So this is when you actually divide both sides by the coefficient. So how do we know when to divide by the coefficient? It's basically when all the variable terms on one side, there's no more like term to combine. That's when you divide. So I'll divide both sides by a coefficient 5. My answer, x equals 12/5. So in your own word, why it's a good idea to move the variable term to the right side? It's basically you can basically just say, it actually avoid making a sign mistake. Okay, because if I will move the 3x to the left side, then I will end up with the -2x and -3 combined, which is -5x. So for some reason, when students divide both sides by a negative coefficient, students tend to make mistake more often. So the reason we move it to the right side, moving to the bigger side, is so that we can avoid making sign mistakes. All right, let's try another one. Okay, so this problem is a little bit broken down. Okay, so the first question asking you how many terms does this equation has? So, all right, find your equal sign first. Okay, on the left side equal sign, look for addition and subtraction signs outside the parentheses. So there is subtraction sign. In front of it must be one term. From the subtraction sign to the equal sign, that's one term. The subtraction sign go with the term that follow behind it. So my second term is -4 times parenthesis 3t minus 3. All right, on the right side of the equal sign, there's a plus sign outside the parenthesis. This is not a subtraction sign. This is a negative sign, right? Because when you read the problem, you will say equal, right? Then negative parenthesis, right? So it's not a subtraction sign. So this is only one plus sign there. So from the in between the plus and the equal sign, this is one term. Okay, so this third term is actually negative how much doing distribution? Negative what? 1, right? -1 will do a distribution because if there's no number there, there's a 1, always a 1 there. A lot of students ask me, Mr. How do you know there's always a 1 there? When do you write this 1? You write this 1 when there's a parenthesis covering multiple terms inside the parenthesis. There's multiple terms inside the parenthesis, and there's not a number in front of that parenthesis. That's when you know there's a 1 there. And of course, my last term, positive 9. So this equation has 4 terms. Distribute the second terms and the third term, right? Second and the third term has parentheses, so we'll do distribution. And make sure you write everything else down. 7 still 7. All right, distribute my second term. -4 times 3t, -12t. -4 times -3, +12. Equal sign stay in the middle. My third term, -1 times -4t, +4t. -1 times -5, +5. My last term, still +9. All right, step number 3 here says combine like term on both sides of the equal sign. Okay, so let's combine like terms first. So on the left side, 7 and 12 can be combined. So -12t, still -12t. 7 plus 12 is +19, equal sign in the middle. 5 plus 9 will give me 14. 4t still 4t. 5 plus 9 is +14. So now if you look at it, then before I move anything, right? Before I move any variable term, I need to find my variable terms. So right now my variable terms are -12t and the +4t on the right. +4t on the right is bigger than the -12t on the left side, so I will move all the variable term to the right. So from the correct answer number 3, move all the variable term to the right side, and so now you know the reason why I move it to the right, because always move the variable terms to the bigger side. So that means at the same time, though, I'm going to move this +14 back over to the left side of the equal sign. So with the equal sign in the middle, 4t still 4t. -12t come over to the right, becomes positive, right? Changing the sign when you move across the equal sign. If you never move across the equal sign, you do not have to change the sign. Only change the sign when you move across the equal sign. +19 still +19 on the left side. +14 come over, becomes negative. All right, so from the answer I just come up with in number 4, I will combine like term on each side again. So 4t plus 12t is going to be 16t on the right. 19 minus 14 is 5. Now I can divide both sides by the coefficient. Since there's no other like term to combine, and the variable term is already by itself, divide both sides by 16. My answer, t equals 5/16. All right. So this is basically how I will demonstrate on solving linear equations from now on. Another type of equation we're going to encounter is equation involving with fractions. So there are two types of two methods to solve equations involving with fractions. Number one is work with the fraction, right? Use your calculator, do all the adding, subtracting, multiplying, dividing with the fractions. Another way is actually more common. Is actually clear the fraction by multiply every term by the least common denominator. Okay, because the whole idea here is get rid of to make all the denominator of this equation into a 1. Okay, so let me show you how to do number 2. I'm going to demonstrate how to do clear the fraction by multiply everything by the LCD. So if you look at the denominator, I got 3, I got 4, I got 8. So LCD between 4 and 8. LCD between 4 and 8 got to be 8. Least common denominator is the number where this 4 and 8 can go into. The smallest number 4 and 8 can go into. That's basically the idea. That's what LCD is. Smallest number 4 can go into, so is 8 can go into. So the answer to that will be 8, right? 4 can go into 8, 8 can go into 8. So if the LCD between 4 and 8 is 8, then let's go against with the 3. So now what's the LCD between 3 and 8? Between 4 and 8 is already 8, so now let's include the 3. LCD between 3 and 8 was one number 3 can go into, 8 can go into. Smallest number 3 can go into, 8 can go into. So if you know your timetable pretty well, the answer will be 24. All right, so the idea here is I'm going to multiply every term by 24. So I'm going to write it out, okay? So subtraction sign here. This is 2 terms, equal sign is here. All right, on the right side, plus sign here. So that's another 2 terms. So I got 4 terms here total. So every term got that multiplied by 24. When you times by 24, that's 24/1. So I'm gonna write it out here for a moment, and I'm gonna do the very first one on the side here. So my first term, 2 over 3x, now will multiply by the LCD, which is 24 over 1. So multiplication of fraction, as we talked about in topic number 1, multiplication of fraction means I will reduce top and bottom numbers first before I multiply. Those 3 and 24 can be reduced by 3. That give me 1 down here, 8 up here. So that's 8 times 2x, which is 16x. So what happened to the denominator? That all becomes 1, right? That's what I want. Denominator all becomes 1. So now my second term, 24 over 1 times negative 3 over 4. So top 24, bottom 4 reduced into 1 and 6. So that's 6 times 3, which is 18. Equal sign in the middle. All right, 7 over 8x times 24. Top 24, bottom 8 reduced by 8. That's 1 and 3. So 7x times 3. That'll give me 21x. All right, last one. Positive 7 over 4 times 24. So top 24, bottom 4 reduced by 4. That's 1 and 6. So positive 7 times 6. Positive 42. So basically what I just did is increased the entire fraction equation by 24 times so that all the denominator becomes 1. So I'm just dealing with integers. All right, there's no parentheses or like to combine on each side. So before we move anything, let's find our variable terms. 16x on the left, 21x on the right. So 21x is bigger than 16x. So I'll move all my variable terms to the right-hand side. So that means this positive 42 will come back to the left side. So with the equal sign in the middle, 21x still 21x. Positive 16x come over, becomes negative. Negative 18 still on the left side. Positive 42, pick it up, move over to the left side, becomes negative. Step number 5, combine like terms on each side. So that's gonna give me 5x equal to negative 60. Negative 18 minus 42 is negative 60. Okay, no more like term to combine. All the variable terms by itself on one side. So now I divide both sides by the coefficient. My answer, x equals negative 12. All right, there you go. So we will do this quite a bit throughout the semester, clear the fractions. All right, another thing I want to cover in this topic is learn how to solve for a specific variable. So these are a lot easier because we don't have many like terms to combine. So I equal to PRT. I want to solve for R. Okay, so if you look on the left side of the equal sign, there's no plus or minus sign outside parentheses. So that's one term. PRT means P times R times T. So there again, there's no plus or minus sign outside the parentheses. So that's one term. So this entire equation only got 2 terms. One on each side. My variable term is this PRT because this term contains a variable R. Okay, so there's no like term to combine. My variable terms are already on one side. Okay, R is the variable because I'm solving for R, so R is a variable. So inside the variable term, okay, once you know what the variable is, everybody else becomes a coefficient. So my coefficient here is P and T. So all I'm gonna do is divide both sides by the coefficient, which is P times T on both sides. So my answer, R equals I over PT. There you go, right? PRT is a variable term because as a term contains the variable. Once I'm realizing, okay, I'm solving for R, so PRT is a variable term, R is a variable, so that means all the other factors inside the variable term becomes coefficient, which is PT. So that's it, R equal to I over PT, that's it. Now this one I want to solve for the letter E. So if I look at my equation, okay, on the left side of the equal sign, this is the letter C, so that's one term. On the right-hand side, there is a plus sign outside the parentheses to separate between the two terms, a D and a positive E. So I'm solving for E. So positive E is a variable term. Is positive, I'm going to let it stay on this side. So that means I'm going to pick up this term D and move it over to the left side. So my positive 1E is now equal to C. D come over becomes negative. So E equal to C minus D. And that's it. That's all it is. Mr. Chen, why don't I divide it by coefficient? Well, coefficient is 1 in front of the E. So divide by every term by 1 is still going to have the same thing. E equal to C minus D. All right. Now this one is interesting. This one is solving for B. Okay, so if you look, equal sign is here, right? On the left-hand side is the letter A, so that's one term. On the right-hand side of the equal sign, you got this whole thing here. There's no plus or minus sign outside the parenthesis. Because between the half and the H and the parenthesis, there's no plus or minus sign, so there's multiplication sign there. So this whole right-hand side is actually one big term. So this equation only consists of two terms. Our previous example has three terms. Okay, so the letter B is a variable, right? So it's trapped inside the parenthesis. So that's almost like peeling an onion. Okay, I gotta reach the inside, so I gotta get rid of the stuff on the outside, the parenthesis. So first thing is this half. I don't want to deal with half, so I'm gonna get rid of it by multiply both term by the LCD. Well, LCD denominator is 2, so the LCD is just a 2. So the purpose of this is to, let me write this on the side, okay? The purpose of multiply both sides by 2 is, or the LCD, is so the LCD and this half can actually be canceled out. So let me write this down on the side. The top two, bottom two cancels out. So that would just be H times B plus C. The other side is 2 times A, 2A. Now, normally from this point, I will distribute the H to bring the variable term B to the outside the parenthesis, okay? But instead of distribute the H, what I'm going to show you here is to go ahead and divide by the H. H times B will be HB. Therefore, B is a variable that H will become a coefficient at the very end. So I will go ahead and get rid of this H. Go ahead and divide by this H on both sides. Because the moment I canceled out the H, there's a 1 in front of the parenthesis. And that 1 then do a distribution will allow the B and the positive C to come to the outside the parenthesis. The other side is 2A over H. Let me write this down here on the side for you. Right, I'm dividing by H, right? So technically, what's happening here, once the H cancels out, I end up with the 1 here. And that 1 over 1, that 1 in front of the parenthesis do a distribution, allows the B and the positive C to come outside the parenthesis. So now, with this plus sign outside the parenthesis now the right-hand side here is two different terms. Solving for B, so B is a variable term, and it's positive, I'm going to let it stay there. So that means the positive C can be moved over. So my answer, B, right, solving for B, trying to get B by itself, is equal to 2A over H, right? And then positive B come over becomes negative. Be very careful, okay, how you write this answer. If you write it as 2A minus B over H, that will be incorrect. Because then you are saying there's an H underneath a B, so it's underneath a 2A. That's not the case. There's no H underneath the B. If you write it as 2A over H minus B, that is also incorrect because this B was actually B over 1. It's actually on the numerator, not in the denominator. So be careful how you write this. All right, let's go over this particular example here, okay? So this one is breaking down, it's actually already broken down. The one on the homework is very similar to this one, except solving for H instead of B. All right, enter the variable term from the equation. So, okay, I'm solving for B, right? Here is a subtraction sign outside the parentheses. So this is two separate terms. So the term that contains a variable is this term, right? This is just one big term because inside the parenthesis, there's no plus or minus sign. So inside parentheses is only one term also. So enter the variable term that will be negative 4 times parenthesis 2 over 5 BH. Because there's no parenthesis, excuse me, because there's no plus or minus sign inside this parenthesis, then this is a straight multiplication. Negative 4 times 2 over 5 BH. It's a straight up negative 4 over 1 times 2 over 5 BH. Okay, it's not a distribution. Distribution only happens when you got multiple terms inside the parenthesis. This not in this case. All right, so simplify the variable term from the equation. So lowercase a still the same, equals capital letter A squared still the same. Negative 4 times 205 BH. There's nothing can be reduced top and bottom. So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8 over 5 BH straight up. All right, so from the correct answer number 2, multiply every term by the least common denominator, right? Because this term has a fraction. So my LCD is 5. That's the only denominator I have. So I'm going to multiply every term by 5. So 5 times lowercase a is 5 lowercase a equals 5 times capital letter A squared is 5a squared. All right, minus top 5 means 5 over 1. Top 5, bottom 5 cancels out. That just leave me with negative 8 BH. There you go. All right, so from the answer we just got, move the variable term to the left side. Why? Because now my variable term is the term contains the letter b. So right here, this is a variable term is negative. So if it's negative, I'm going to move it over. So that means at the same time, this 5 times lowercase a will come over to the right. So negative 8bh come to the left side, becomes positive 8bh, set it equal to 5a squared, still the same on the right. Positive 5a come over to the right, become negative. So number 5, from the correct answer I just got, rather than write it out, divide every term by the coefficient. Because now, if the b is a variable, if the variable, then ah is my coefficient. So here I supposed to say divide every term by ah. You're supposed to write it out, divide everything by ah. So rather than actually write all that out, okay, just on the homework here, we're just gonna enter the coefficient I'm going to divide. Why? Just because saving students a little bit of time from entering all these fractions. So you can write it out on the side if you want to. If I write it out on the side, it will become b equals what? 5a squared over 8h minus 5a over ah. So rather than typing all that, I just want you to tell me what is the coefficient going to divide, which is ah in this case. All right, so this same homework problem, okay, we'll be solving this same problem on the homework will be solving for h instead of b. Let me double check. Yeah, right here, solving for h. So everything will look the same except who I'm solving for. All right, so let's talk about homework. A variable term is the term that contains a variable that is being solved. Okay, so you can just write down what's on the lecture handout for this one. Question number 2, a coefficient is a what? A coefficient is if you go back to the first page of this lecture handout, a coefficient is a factor inside the variable term that is not the variable. Okay. All right, um question number 3. Consider the following equation is from same exact example I showed you earlier. What is the coefficient? I'm solving for y, so tell me, it's a multiple choice on the homework. Tell me which one is the coefficient, okay, if I'm solving for y. Question number 4 is very similar to the one I just did earlier, okay? How many terms does the equation have? So again, we're looking for addition and subtraction signs outside the parentheses to identify terms. So find the equal sign first, right? On the left side of it, there is one plus sign here, separate between two terms. So a 2. And then from the plus to the equal sign, this must be one term. Plus sign go with the term that follows. On the right hand side, I see a subtraction sign here and the plus sign here outside the parentheses. So 2 of those signs will separate between 3 terms. So now I got 2x in front of the subtraction and 2x. From the subtract to the plus sign is one term. So the subtraction go with the term that follow right behind it. So this is my second term. And then of course my last term, positive 1. So this equation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got 5 different terms. So it look like the second and fourth term can be distributed. So this is what the hint tells you what the answer will look like. So go ahead and distribute and also write everything, also enter everything else out. And then just follow the direction, combine like term on both sides of the equal sign. Combine like terms on each side of the equal sign. But that's probably a better way of saying it. All right. And then move all the variable terms to the left side. So apparently once you combine like term on each side, the left side, the variable term on the left side is bigger than the one on the right. So just follow the direction, exactly what it's telling you what to do. And of course, this question we just gone over, you'll be solving for H instead of solving for B in this example, okay? So thank you so much for reviewing how to solve linear equation in one variable with me. So in this lecture video, we cover how, we talk about what the variable term is, how to identify a coefficient, and we've gone over the steps on how to solve linear equation in one variable. Thank you for watching.